All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming out on this historic signing that we have here with us today. I have to say that one of the best parts of serving as mayor is getting to sign something into law that will advance the cause of justice and equality in our city. And the ordinance that I'll be signing in a few moments is a tremendous example of that, and it's in the same spirit as some of the most important laws that have been passed in our city's history. And we've done some incredible actions with our city here together as a populace, like when Louisville became the first city in the South to enact a fair housing law in 1968, in our Fairness Ordinance in 1999. The ordinance we're here to make into law today is aligned with the resolution that we signed in November of 2011 declaring Louisville a compassionate city. And we're here to take an important step as a city and as an organization that employs around 6,000 professionals. MSD and the water company are also signing on to the intent of this bill. It's time for Louisville to join the growing number of public and private employers around the country who've decided to implement a simple but critical change that will help address the legacy of discrimination in hiring and employment in our country. The ordinance I'll sign today will prohibit Metro government from asking any job applicant about their salary history. This is significant because data and research both prove that too often women and people of color are paid less for doing the same work. That is not consistent with the values that we hold dear in this country. And what happens is that an employee's unfairly low salary in one job with one employer can influence the salary they receive in their next job and their next job and their next job, and can affect their earnings over their entire career. That's not right, that's unfair, and it's unacceptable. And we're going to do something about that here today by signing this bill. I want to say I'm really grateful to Councilwoman Mary Woolridge for her leadership on this. The Councilwoman has had a distinguished career in public service. She's deciding not to run for office again. And Councilwoman, I can't imagine a better note to kind of exit your long career of public service than by making this happen today. So thank you on behalf of all of our citizens here. This is a tremendous accomplishment. Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I also want to recognize Barbara Sexton Smith, who's with us today, Councilwoman from District 4. And also a shout out to Tina Ward Pugh. Tina long served our city as Alderwoman, as Metro Council member, and now we're fortunate enough that she works in our Office for Women here at Metro government. So you've influenced our city in many great ways as well. So thank you for all the good work that you do. Thank you. I also want to thank the entire Metro Council because all of them supported this measure. So this is when we have our best bills, is when people come together. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're from, what part of the city that you live in, but everybody comes together and say, this is the right thing to do. I'm also proud to announce that our fellow public servants and our partner organizations, MSD and the Louisville Water Company, have agreed to follow these guidelines in their hiring as well. I also want to thank one of our great citizens, and that's Tina Halbig of the American Association of University of Women, for her advocacy on this. You can find Tina advocating for many things in our city, and she's always prepared and always on the right side of justice. So Tina, thank you very much for your good work. So look, to all of the employers here in our city, I encourage everybody, public and private, to adopt this same practice and bring our community and our country one step closer to true equality in the workplace in our society. Equal work deserves and demands equal pay. Now, the woman of the hour, an outstanding public servant who's retiring after 16 years on the Metro Council, please welcome from the 3rd District, Councilwoman Mary Woolridge.
Good morning, and I'd like to thank the mayor for those kind remarks. I'd like to thank my colleague, Councilwoman Barbara Sexton Smith, for being here, and everybody on the podium here today. I especially want to thank the water company and MSD for adopting this policy. As the mayor has said, that's the best thing and the only thing to do. And we're hoping that private businesses will join us in banning this salary history. And I'd like to also, my colleague, Councilwoman Tina Ward Pugh, who I worked with for many years. Tina and I were, I think, both aides for the Board of Aldermen, and both of us wind up being elected officials after a few years. But I'm happy to be here. And again, I want to thank the mayor, and I especially want to thank my colleagues that all signed on to this ordinance. I think at this time, it's a great ordinance. I want to thank Tina Halbert for pushing me to do this. I think this is one of the best laws that we're going to have on the book. And, you know, more women and mothers are working, and they're making like 80% of what men are making, and that just isn't right. So we feel like if we prohibit the history salary from job applicants, not giving them that information, that may increase what women are paid, people of color and people that have been discriminated against. I'm happy to be on the Metro Council. I'm happy to have served on here for almost 16 years. And this Metro Council, the reason we did this ordinance, we want to be proactive in helping to bridge the gap and creating a new section in the Louisville Metro Code of Ordinance. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for making this possible. I would especially, again, like to thank Tina Halbert for pushing to make this happen. So we're just happy, we're thrilled. I thank the mayor for the signing of this legislation, and it goes into effect the second that he signed it. So we don't have 30 days or 2 weeks. When he signed this legislation, momentarily, it will be law. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman, so much for that and all your leadership over the years. Okay, next up is Tina Halbig. Tina, in this particular part of citizenship that she plays, because she has many roles. She is the American Association of University Women Public Policy Chair for Kentucky and for the Louisville branch. Please welcome Tina Halbig.
AAUW empowers women and girls through advocacy, education, philanthropy, and research. Our nonpartisan, nonprofit organization has over 170,000 members and supporters across the United States, as well as 1,000 branches and over 800 college and university partners. In Kentucky, there are 1,300 members. We also spent $3.7 million in 2017 for fellowships and education. Since its founding in 1881, members have examined and taken positions on the fundamental issues of the day: education, social, economic, and political. You can find out more at the website, aauw.org. We initiated and supported the Banned Salary History Ordinance, sponsored by Councilwoman Mary Wooldridge, that prohibits local government from requesting salary history of job applicants, which tackles the persistent gender and racial pay gap. It applies equally to both men and women. This pay gap is not a myth, but it's math, and it remains a pernicious problem undermining the economic security of American families. In 2018, nearly half of mothers with children under the age of 18 are their families' primary or sole breadwinners, and better pay could significantly impact poverty. Basically, women in Kentucky and also worldwide working full-time earn 80 cents for every dollar a man working full-time makes. The AAUW National 2017 study showed Kentucky women on average losing $10,000 a year, men making around $46,000 a year losing, and women making around $36,000 a year. So this $10,000 loss has an economic impact on women, businesses, family, and the economy, and therefore the amount of taxes that government collects. The Louisville Metro Office for Women's snapshot of status of women in Louisville used 2011 to 12 census data and found similar figures. The even greater impact is seen in retirement. Over the working lifetime of 47 years, the loss of dollars for women compared to men is $700,000 for a high school graduate, $1.2 million for a loss for a college graduate, whereas a professional school graduate loses $2 million. This really is a family issue. Families rely on women's wages to make ends meet, and a growing number of women are responsible for supporting their families. Having more funds is the road to better living conditions, shelter, food, clothing, and education for oneself and one's children, plus other opportunities. All of these statistics have real world consequences for women, families, businesses, and economy. Unequal pay early in women's careers, as the mayor noted, compounds throughout a lifetime, hindering women as they try to pay off their student loans, contribute to and raise their families, and thrive in retirement. Compounding losses also occur for raises and bonuses, and not just for retirement. Unequal pay also leads to workplace dissatisfaction, low morale, and higher turnover. But paying women equally can remedy many of these problems. Paying women the salary they have rightfully earned is not only the fair thing to do, it puts more money into workers' pockets. That additional income can then be infused into the economy while also alleviating some of the burden on government programs to support those who are struggling to make ends meet. And cities are now taking matters into their own hands. States aren't the only ones getting in on the action. Several cities also passed ordinances or issued executive orders in 2017. Salary history bans were a hot legislative topic, with New York City, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco enacting ordinances on the subject. And in New Orleans, Mayor Mitch Landrieu issued an executive order for the city agencies on the subject. Equal pay is good for women, good for families, and good for Louisville, Kentucky. Thank you.
Okay, there you go. This is not an abstract issue. I would just ask anybody that's listening to this is think about what your wife makes, think about what your sister makes, what your daughter's offer was. And frequently you see exactly what we're talking about up here. So those numbers that you laid out are very persuasive, and they show how we can increase the quality of life for all of our families here in our city and our country. So we're proud to be here to sign this bill today. MSD is one of our great sister organizations in the city. They too are jumping on board along with the Louisville Water Company with the intent of this bill. So please welcome MSD Director Tony Parrott.
You know, I just want to, first of all, thank Councilmember Woolridge for her leadership and all of Metro Council for supporting this important legislation, and also Mayor Fisher and his support and moving forward with signing this legislation today. You know, for far too long, we have always seen unintentional processes restrict those who are in search of a decent and fair wage and a rewarding career path. As a public utility whose workforce is dominated by males, it is important that we pursue to fill about 90 to 100 jobs every year. And so we constantly take steps to open doors and opportunity for the members of the workforce that have long been unemployed or underemployed and underpaid. This legislation will give us another tool in our toolbox to attract the next generation workforce. The new workforce, the millennials and the Generation Zers, they don't care about pension. They don't care about other things. They care about opportunity, and they care about equity, and they want to be treated fairly. And so this legislation is going to allow us to constantly continue to chip away at the glass ceiling that has existed for decades in our country. This legislation will aid our organization as we strive to change our culture and past practices so that we can shape an inclusive and a world-class organization going forward. So again, we're proud to be a partner and supporter of this measure, and we're so honored and proud of Councilmember Woolridge and Metro Council and Mayor Fisher for bringing this forward today. So congratulations to everybody.
Okay, great job to everybody. This is how government's supposed to work. So now we're going to sign the bill over here and make this official. All right. Okay, so this is an ordinance that was sponsored by the entire council,
Yes,
Right.
25.
which is no small feat to get that done. This lays out the history of underpayment for women and minorities, and ordering the Louisville Metro government to prohibit from asking from salary history on applications for work here, so that people will be paid fairly for what the job, so equal pay for equal work. So it is with great pleasure that I sign this bill and make it law. Thank you.